Welcome in. We're going to look at some catchers today. I'm doing things a little bit differently. I'm going to raise my desk up too. I have a screen share going on for those of you on YouTube. So if you want to see this, I know that if it was me, I find myself really unable to watch podcasts. If I'm doing it, I'm always doing it while I'm doing something else. So my attention is split, and that it works a lot better for like when I'm exercising or working, just to have audio on rather than trying to watch a video. But I don't know, there's some people out there that maybe work differently. So I put a screen share up here. But this podcast will be, I'm going to try to keep it as much just so it works audio only. But if you are interested, there's a video along with this, and it's not me. It's a screen share of the dashboards, and it'll help you kind of follow along with what I'm doing, with how I do this. And then if you're a dashboard user, I would kind of recommend checking it out because you can see kind of the way I use the dashboards, and you'll probably learn some things, some helpful tips and stuff. Since I'm really the only one that knows how to use these very well because I made them. And then I made them for me. And again, they're not like the most self-explanatory things in the world, so it'll help to watch that. But I will do my absolute best here to make this as if I'm not sharing the screen, so I'm not taking away, so you're not missing things if you're just listening. But the idea here was to go into some positions and kind of do another series of podcasts. Have been enjoying doing the podcast. I really do like even my favorite part of the podcast is when I go into non-baseball stuff and kind of let some of the thoughts flow out. But there's mixed opinions on that. But so that's what's kept me coming back to it. And again, like Thursdays are a pretty good day for it, especially today. Like today, there's only 6 games, so I'm not having to write like a slate preview and not really plan doing anything for myself. So I'm just taking the day off, and then the day off for me means, oh, let me use these 45 free minutes to do a podcast. So we're going to talk about some catchers, some early season. I mean, I guess it's hardly even early season at this point, We're into mid-May, which means almost 2 months is gone. So we're at like 25 to 30% of the season gone. So hardly even, can't even really call it early season, but we'll look at some catchers stuff, and then we'll do first base next time, and we'll go. And I don't know how long it'll take. Again, no promises on that. Might take a month or something, but we'll be covering a lot of ground here. So again, if you want to see the dashboard and see the numbers I'm talking about, go ahead and flip over to YouTube on this. And I'll also be publishing this out to a Substack article, so you'll be aware. But let's start at the top. We're going to actually start with some very high-owned players. So I'm going to look at catchers owned in at least 75% of leagues first. And there's one guy in particular. And on the dashboard, as on the screen, there's an ownership slider there that you can set, and that'll filter to certain ownerships. But in this case, I'm actually filtering to higher ownership, which is usually not the case. But anyway, Adley Rutschman's the guy we want to talk about, right? So right now, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 catchers above 75% ownership with 50 plate appearances. And the worst of the group by actual production would be Adley Rutschman, the Orioles catcher. He's hitting just 197 with a 623 OPS, 4 homers, and just not doing a whole lot. 328 slug, that's bad. But the thing to know about Adley Rutschman, and if you have him, you've probably kind of been looking at the advanced stuff, is that you can see the 280 expected batting average, 369 expected WOBA. So things are looking very, very good on that part. The advanced stuff says that he has been really bad, really unlucky, and you can see here the BABIP is also on the dashboard. The BABIP checks in at 211. One thing to note about if you are on the dashboard and if you're seeing in the daily notes and whatnot, and anytime you're hearing me cite an expected batting average or expected WOBA, I just wanted to say this really quickly. MLB, you might notice that my numbers don't exactly match. So if you look at Adley Rutschman's Savant page, you'll see that his expected batting average sits at 279 here, and the expected WOBA is at 368. And on my dashboard, it says 280 and 369. So 1 point off. You probably wouldn't even have necessarily noticed that, or you think it was just a rounding error or something like that. But no, there actually can be not significant. There can be small differences there, because what Savant does is before it actually puts a number on their screen, it cooks in for sprint speed. So for example, a ground ball hit to third base by Chandler Simpson. Say that Chandler Simpson and Max Muncy, just take 2 left-handed hitters, say they both hit the same ground ball to third base. I mean, who's more likely to turn that into a hit, right? Like it's not it would be silly to say that both of those batted balls from Simpson and Muncy have the same expected batting average, because Simpson's going to run down the line, 30-40% faster than Muncy, or maybe that's extreme, I don't know, but much higher. And the Savant stuff, before it gets to the actual MLB pages, it'll adjust for that. Mine doesn't do that, but it really doesn't turn into big differences. I think the most you'll see like 5 points or so difference. So that's kind of why I've just let it go. Maybe someday I'll take a minute to try to figure out how they're adjusting it exactly and then adjust for that. But for now, it's not baking that in. But anyway, point with Rutschman being that he's just fine. I mean, I know it sucks that he's 156 plate appearances in without, he's been kind of a negative for your fantasy team, right? Oops, as I just messed that up. Sorry, I hit a wrong button on the old screen. But if we look at last year and compare to this year, I have another dashboard that's now, the link is in the resource glossary. It's called the 2024 to 2025 dashboard. And here you can see on the hitter profile and pitcher profile tabs, you can see the comparison with last season, which is pretty nice. I just did that today because I've been having to like flip back and forth, but now it's kind of things are on the same page. So really everything's the same. K rate last year for Rutschman, 16%. This year it's even better, 15.4%. Barrel rate's up 1.7 points. That's actually a large increase for barrel rate. Like 1 point is significant for barrel rate, and he's up 1.7 points on that. Contact rate's up 6 points. Expected batting average is up 24 points. Expected WOBA is up 56, 57 points? 47 points? 47? Math. He's looking a lot better this year as compared to last, but the hits aren't falling in. Exit velocity's up, EV 90th percentile exit velocity this year, 104.98. Last year, 102.32. Everything in here is better, except the actual hits falling in. So poor luck for Rutschman, and certainly a buy low or just a like hold on, he'll be fine kind of situation. BABIP last year 272, BABIP this year 211. So very good. Similar line drive rates, similar flight ball rates, hitting the ball harder. Just poor luck for Adley Rutschman to start the year. So that's good news for him. Let's filter to some other guys. Salvador Perez, speaking of bad luck, kind of wanted to hit on him real quick. 221 average, 337 slugging. You can believe that, you shouldn't have ever been super confident in Salvador Perez's batting average, but you wanted the power, right? You wanted him to be a 25 homer guy, and so far he only has 2. However, a 14.4% barrel rate is very high. 22.4% K rate is very low. I guess not very low, but it's that's league average K rate. Like, it's not a problem. Swing rate's still high. That's all the same. 72% contact rate is not great, but again, it's like everything's normal for him. It's just, except the balls aren't flying out. I don't know. It's certainly one of the least lucky hitters in the league. If we go over to his one plot that I do kind of use a lot for sharing out, at least if I could find it. I have an expected WOBA and here we go with the noises are back, because now it's hot outside and now we have air conditioning going. So it's going to be noisy podcast once again. We had a few weeks there where I didn't have to have the heat or the air conditioning on, but I don't know. We'll try to filter that out. If you just look at the expected WOBA and the WOBA, you've seen it all year. Right now I'm showing on the screen the expected line, 15-day rolling averages of moving, 15-day moving averages for WOBA and expected WOBA, and the green line for expected is just way above the red all season. So there's more, there's good times ahead for Salvador Perez and Adley Rutschman. So if you have them, you just got to keep holding on. Kind of the same with Yainer Diaz. It seems like there's just been a lot of bad luck at the catcher position, especially at the top of the list. Yainer Diaz, 234 average, 266 expected, 323 expected WOBA isn't anything fantastic, but it's good. It would predict a much higher slugging than 376. 4 homers for him. You really get him for, you get 20, you're expected 20 to 25 homers from him with a good batting average and a good amount of accounting stats. 261 BABIP, just hasn't gotten a lot of love, a lot of luck so far. If we can compare him with last year, he is kind of a unique hitter with how much he swings the bat. Swing rate last year 59%, swing rate this year 58.4%. So it was 58.8% last year. So it's down at half a point, 0.4 points. That's pretty much the same. Contact rate's about the same. I mean, really, I don't really see anything different. K rate's right in line. Walk rate is really low, but we expected that. Contact rate's the same. Expected batting average is lower. So I guess the launch angle stuff hasn't quite been what it was last year. 19% fly ball rate last year. That's turned into 25%. So he's hitting more fly balls, fewer ground balls, a few line drives less as well. So I don't know. I wouldn't really worry about any of this. I think Yainer Diaz should be viewed as, he's the same guy you drafted him. You should be expecting the same thing at least. Those are kind of the three guys at the top of the list. William Contreras is having a little bit of regression as well, you can see, but it's still really good K rate, walk rate. And then if we look at let's make sure he's still hitting the ball hard. That's an important thing to know for him, and he's sure enough he is a 107.15 90th percentile EV. Barrel rate's not there, 4.3%. He's never been a super great barrel guy because he does hit a lot of ground balls. He's kind of been a guy to hit a lot of hard ground balls, and I was a little bit worried about that. I mean, I think in draft season I did say he was kind of a fade as the #1 catcher just because it seemed like last year was about as good as he could possibly do. Last year, ground ball rate 54%, still very high, but he still played so much and got so many balls in play with the lower K rate that he turned into 23 homers. So there was always a little bit of concern about that. I mean, he had a 330 BABIP last year with a 54% ground ball rate. All of a sudden, his BABIP's a little bit, it's a lot lower. It's 277, but I would say that 277 makes a little bit more sense than 330. I mean, 330 wasn't repeatable for a guy like him. I think he can do 285, 290 or so. But we're just kind of seeing some of that natural regression, I think, for him. 56% ground ball rate. That can come down. I mean, that's really high. But again, he's always been well above 50%. That's just kind of who he is. But still hitting the ball hard, still playing every day. That's really the key with him. 170 plate appearances already this year. I think more homers will come, given just how skilled he is. But, yeah, you're just seeing kind of that what goes up must come down. 232 expected batting average, 308 expected WOBA. Those are somewhat discouraging numbers. So I'm not saying trade him or anything unless you can really get, if you could get the same value you could get on draft day for him right now, I would think I would consider doing that. I don't know. There's just kind of a lot of interesting catchers around. So I don't know. I don't want to neglect anybody, but I also don't want to talk about every single catcher. I don't think that's super worthwhile. So let's move down to the 25 to 75% ownership range. There's about 10 guys, 8 guys on the screen in this kind of mid-range. It's possible we're missing some guys. Some guys, you can only pick one position on here. So if somebody plays both positions, 2 positions, you might see someone show up on another position rather than under the filter you pick. So it's possible somebody that is actually playing catcher right now that is eligible there on your fantasy team might not show up here, but I wasn't going to cover every single player, obviously. Anyway, Hunter Goodman, let's talk about Hunter Goodman. Let's go to the hitter profile tab for him and talk about some of these numbers. I definitely did like him as a deep league catcher this year. I was targeting him a good bit in those NFBC leagues where you have to draft 2 catchers and you have at least 11 opponents, so you're talking about 20 plus catchers started. Goodman was interesting there, and he's playing a ton, so he's got 165 plate appearances. He's an everyday player because he's not having to catch. Let me see exactly how that is breaking down, because I think he has caught some games, right? But the appeal with him was that he would play a lot because he doesn't have to catch. He's in there as an outfielder and a little bit of first base as well. And actually this year he hasn't even done either of those things. Interesting. He started 19 games as the DH, started 21 more as the catcher. So when he's not behind the plate, he is at DH. That's a very good thing. Although if he's not hitting, then maybe he doesn't DH quite as much, but it's not like the Rockies have guys knocking the door down to take his spot, and he is hitting. 483 slugs, 6 homers, 23% K rate. That's a big increase from last year. So let's pull up this quick comparison for him. He didn't play a ton last year, but the thing I remember during evaluating him in the offseason was these Ks were going to be the big problem. 28.6% K rate last year, 68.5% contact rate last year, 203 expected batting average. This year, significant improvement on K rate, down to 23%. However, contact rate is actually a little bit worse, 67.3% contact rate and a 231 expected batting average. So contact rate and expected batting average are still really bad. The K rate seems to be a little bit lucky, I would say. It's hard to do a 67% contact rate and keep a K rate in the low 20s. So just for like some comparisons here, let's look at hitters over the last 2 years with at least 200 plate appearances and we'll say sub 70% contact rate. The group of those hitters, so this is guys with decent sample sizes with contact rates below 70%. Let's go between 65 and 70% contact rate. That group collective is 28% K rate. So Goodman is beating that by 5 points. I would say he's been pretty lucky. I mean, again, we are early on in the year. There's still not a lot of data, and we're more prone to these kind of outlier things, right? So what this would suggest is that Goodman is still whiffing a lot, but he's not whiffing on 2 strikes as much as he had in the past. Now, that could be conscious. Maybe he's just really focusing on contact now, but more often than not, you're just going to see some regression there. I think there's more Ks coming for him. 23% doesn't really seem possible for this guy. But could be. I mean, 165 plate appearances is a sample size, but yeah, I would expect more strikeouts coming forward. But okay, like that's fine with the kind of power he has. He's got 107.2 90th percentile exit velocities and a 7. Oh, that barrel rate's kind of low. I wasn't really expecting that. 7.9% barrel rate. 331. Oh, that's not. Sorry, 302 expected WOBA. So I'd say this is a pretty big overperformer. Now that you're kind of looking at it, but if you're, you probably don't have Goodman in like a 10-team league. And if you do have him, if you're in this like 15-team league where you have him, then I'm not saying you have to drop him or anything like that. But if you have been kind of riding out this 483 slugging, 6 homers, and if there are good catchers on waiver wire, like maybe you want to at least not wait too long when some of this stuff starts regressing, because the underlying stuff really doesn't look that good. I mean, 24th percentile expected WOBA. His expected slugging is only 399 in the 37th percentile, so he's definitely been lucky this year, and that should come to an end. There's going to be some down times in the future for him. That's the bottom line there. So keep that in mind with Goodman. What else is going on here in the mid-range? Austin Wells, right, hit the home run on the first at bat of the season on opening day. Just remember watching those Yankees get out there. Bottom of the first, he hit a home run, and people were. I think maybe he hit another one shortly thereafter. Did he hit 2 on opening day? Do I have a hitter? I don't know. But since then, overall, it hasn't been all that great. 7 homers is a nice total. That's 1 every 20 plate appearances. That's a very good rate. 12.1% barrel rate's pretty good. But a 203 batting average, 217 expected, a 20.6% K rate. That's interesting. Usually aren't going to see a super low expected batting average with a pretty competitive K rate. So what that will typically tell you is just a launch angle kind of problem. 37% fly ball rate, that's very high. 33% ground ball rate, that's very low. 196 BABIP. BABIP's very low, but again, he is hitting quite a few soft fly balls. The 90th percentile exit velocity is 103.7. The max is 111. He's not the hardest swinger in the world. So a lot of his batted balls, he's also presumably pretty slow. So a lot of these batted balls are just going to be up in the air where they're easy to get caught, and that'll turn into a 196. That won't turn into a 196 BABIP, but it will turn into a lower BABIP. And that's kind of what you have to know about heavy fly ball hitters, and 37% is very high. Anything over 30% is pretty high, and then as you get closer to 40, you're like super, super, super high. I don't really think more than a handful of guys can even flirt with 40% over a significant sample size, and that's good for home runs, especially in the Yankee Stadium. So those will probably keep coming, but it's not good for BABIP. It's not good for batting average, therefore. So you have that. I don't think Wells is like a top 12 catcher necessarily. Maybe you want to roll with him, and it is a good lineup to be in, and the home runs are there. So I'm not saying he's definitely not, but he's kind of a fringe guy. He's not really having that breakout season that we thought was maybe possible. Agustin Ramirez, got to just keep talking about him. Doing some really impressive things. 5 homers in just 80 plate appearances, so that's an elite 16 PA per home run rate. 21% K rate is really competitive. 55% hard hit rate is great, really, really high. 13.8% barrel rate is really nice. 79% contact rate is pretty good. 276 expected batting average is very good. 352 expected WOBA is very good. Just looking really, really impressive. I mean, swings the bat really hard, hits the ball really hard. 109.1 90th percentile exit velocity, and yet just I don't know. I was gonna say and yet just a fill in the blank slug, but he's slugging 587 now, so the numbers are really good. I think this guy, I don't know. I mean, 88% zone contact rate. The only thing to poke a hole in maybe is the 45% ground ball rate, and I think that was actually lower if we go back a few days. He was at, a week ago he was around 50% on May 4th, but you don't really get too many guys making this much contact, swinging this hard, hitting the ball this hard, and Augustin Ramirez is doing that. So the ceiling is seemingly sky high for him. I know the team contact isn't that good, but it has helped him get into some DH reps. I mean, he's playing pretty much every day, which is nice to see. So I would absolutely, if we were drafting today, I would take Augustin Ramirez as a top 10 catcher. I don't think I would have many, I feel pretty good about that. Things are really looking really, really nice under the hood. If you want to see some of that, if you're watching it, let's just put up that beautiful Savant page for him, although it's all that like muted colors because he hasn't quite qualified with just 80 plate appearances. But expected velo way up there, barrel rate, hard hit rate, expected slugging, expected BA, batting average, bat speed way up there, everything very good. The only blue stuff is the sprint speed, the chase rate, the walk rate. He swings a lot, and that'll happen. And he's also apparently not a good catcher according to Savant's measurement, at least. But I think he's must own, and he's probably available in quite a few leagues there. Sean Murphy hitting the home runs, 15.6 plate appearances per home run. 15.6 plate appearances per home run, that's elite. 13.6% barrel rate, that's elite. However, 32% K rate. Striking out a lot. Let's go to the hitter profile here for him. Let's see if the splits are going on. The one guy we're going to mention his teammate, I think, here soon. So I do think Drake Baldwin is hitting very well. That's spoiler alert. So you might see them play into more of an even split, or maybe Baldwin will even play a little bit more. So for that reason, I don't think Murphy needs to be owned anywhere. But the splits aren't doing better against lefties this year. 542 slugging, but it's definitely too small of a sample to even really get into that. The problem is the strikeouts, 32% K rate is really, really high. The good news is that this contact rate of 74% would not predict a 32% K rate. So he's kind of having the opposite problem of who did we just talk about with the Hunter Goodman, right? We talked about Hunter Goodman as having a low K but also a low contact rate. Sean Murphy has a high K rate but also a high contact rate. So it's kind of the same. And there is a plot on the dashboard here that you can kind of see that. So this will be for the YouTube people watching. You'll see this. So what this does is it plots that relationship, contact rate and K rate. It really shows the relationship there, and you can kind of see the outliers. Some of these guys that are just way higher, way out of line, and Sean Murphy is probably here somewhere far away from the trend line. There he is, if you can see. So basically, him and Jose Caballero are right next to each other. They both have very high K rates, but while their contact rate would seem to track more with a K rate around 24, 25, 26%. That's kind of where we'd expect it. So probably fewer strikeouts coming for Murphy. But again, as we move down a little bit into the ownership, we're going to see his teammate Drake Baldwin really pushing him for playing time. Let's actually just go to Atlanta here just to make this comparison real quick. Drake Baldwin, he must not be getting an ownership percentage or something like that. But if we look at these two together, Drake Baldwin clearly the better hitting numbers so far this year, all things considered. Baldwin 338 average over there at 298 expected, so his expected batting average is up almost 80 points higher than Murphy's. The barrel rates are both really good. So Baldwin has a 13.8% barrel rate, except with a 17% K rate. He's got half the K rate with the same barrel rate. That means it's a ton more barrels per plate appearance. 370 BABIP for Baldwin, sure, that's high, but again, the batted ball profile has been such that he has a 298 expected batting average. So you could say that the BABIP will certainly come down, but he could probably manage, if this kind of stuff keeps up, you would expect a 320-ish BABIP. I mean, he's a line drive hitter, hits ball really hard, and that's a good thing. So Baldwin really impressive early on. I mean, this is really impressive just for a rookie to come up and do this. And he's been kind of doing this all year. I mean, he had a slow start. If we look back to what he was looking like on, I don't know, April 15th or something, we were at a 216 batting average, but everybody was kind of aware, like he's been unlucky. He had a 269 BABIP at that point, a 249 expected batting average. If we back it up even more to April 10th, I just remember this guy like hitting the ball really well, but having nothing to show for it. No homers in his first 29 plate appearances, despite several barrels, 17% K rate, 10% walk rate early in the year for Baldwin, 82% contact rate, but a 190 BABIP through those first 30 plate appearances, and now it's all kind of gotten right. And the season's looking really good. I mean, that guy's a really good hitter. He's hit at every level he's been at. Just really talented, skilled guy, good plate discipline. So I don't know, having two good catchers on the same team, as long, it can work if you're like the Marlins or the Rockies, who we just talked about, who if they have two good catchers, they'll just put one in at DH. But that's not easy to do for the Braves with Marcell Ozuna there. So it kind of hurts both guys, honestly. They both kind of take away from each other. But seemingly, two very good per game hitters. Sean Murphy more for the power, and Drake Baldwin more for the well-rounded kind of thing. One guy we missed in kind of that mid-range was, he's probably still leading the league in a few things. Carson Kelly, not quite, but if we go to 50 plate appearances, he's leading the league in catcher slugging. He's got 105 plate appearances now. He's really kind of hit his way into more reps over Miguel Amaya, 8 homers for Carson Kelly and 105 plate appearances. That's got to be like one of the best home run rates in the entire league, right? I mean, plenty of guys don't have a home run yet, so they'll be blank there. But if we look at guys with 100 plate appearances and a higher plate appearance per home run rate than Kelly, there's only 3: Trent Grisham, Jorge Polanco, and Kyle Schwarber. That's how good he's been. 8 homers and 105 plate appearances. Incredible stuff for Carson Kelly. He's definitely worth, pulling up the year comparison on him. Last year, 313 plate appearances with, who was he with? Detroit and Texas last year. 238 average last year, 17.6% K rate, 6.6% barrel rate, 239 expected batting average, 314 expected WOBA last year. This year, everything is just through the roof. I mean, I just think there's been luck. It doesn't seem uncommon to me that we have these catchers that just kind of go on these crazy hot runs with the bat for a little bit, and it never seems to last. And with Kelly, he doesn't hit the ball very hard, 103.7 90th percentile exit velocity, a career of middling to medium, mediocre barrel rates, and now he's up to 12.7 all of a sudden. Way more walks than strikeouts this year. It's all just kind of weird. I mean, I think you want him in your lineup when he's starting, but it's hard to deny. But I just think that you could really see this kind of go the opposite way in a hurry. It's just kind of suspicious, right? Like, if a guy is doing something you really didn't expect him to do, there's probably a reason for that, and there's reason to be skeptical about it. But I can't argue too much with the great Carson Kelly really benefiting from being on the Cubs. I don't know. Is that the reason? Is it just maybe a Cubs thing? They figure something out with him? I don't know. But I would be betting against him the rest of the year. At least I'd be betting against him keeping up anything near this kind of production. Ivan Herrera, too bad we missed a few weeks from him. So we have a small sample on him, only 46 plate appearances for the Cardinals catcher. Took over for Wilson Contreras, who moved to first base, but elite numbers so far: 474 expected WOBA, 5 homers. That's a 9.2 plate appearances per home run, 19.4% barrel rate. It's 46 plate appearances, so it's a really small sample. It could be really overheated, probably. Certainly is overheated. There's no way the guy slugs 800 all year. He's almost at 900 now, but just showing that we were kind of right to like the bat. He showed some really good signs last year. I would say that he showed more good signs in batting average rather than power last year, but he's seemingly, I don't know if he's added power or he's just like output more of it, but EV90 up to 108, that's elite. Again, the barrel rate 19.4%, 79% contact rate. Must start catcher, no doubt about it. I mean, clear top 10 option in the league right now, and he could be available. I don't know. If you're in a 10-team one catcher league, he probably could have gotten dropped and maybe still available, but looking like a quite good hitter. Edgar Quero, another guy. There's really a lot of catcher options this year. And this was something we talked about in the offseason too. We kind of saw it coming. Just a lot of young talent at the position. really didn't make a lot of sense to spend big time on catchers this year. Quero, no homers yet, no barrels yet. He's a White Sox prospect, and that's not unsurprising. I didn't think he would come up and hit homers at more than like a 10 to 15 homer per year pace, but so far he's at 0 pace. Again, no barrels is kind of the more interesting thing. He's put a lot of balls in play, 80, not a lot, but 82 plate appearances so far, and just a 16% K rate with an 11% walk rate. So do the math. That's whatever 73, 74% of 82 is. 10, 8, he's put 60 some balls in play without a barrel, so not a great sign. The fly ball rate is very, very low at 14%. So that's probably the main reason for no homers and no barrels is because he's only put, you can do more math here. He's got 58 balls in play and only 14% of them have been fly balls. So 58 times 0.14 is 8. So 8 fly balls so far and over 8 on those. Not so, again, like even if he starts hitting more fly balls, it might not even be a good thing because his exit velocity is low. It's not terribly low, 103.9, 90th percentile, 106.9 max. So I mean, he can do that. He's not Stephen Kwan or Chandler Simpson or somebody like that, but not a home run hitter, just more of a batting average guy and a playing time guy. Hopefully, 292 expected batting average, 83% contact rate, 87% zone contact rate for Edgar Quero. Looking really good. Points leagues, great option for points leagues. 11% walk rate, low Ks, a lot of base hits. Again, like those points leagues are great for these guys that just don't strike out, walk a lot. The lack of home runs or steals really doesn't hurt you nearly as much in those kind of leagues. So that's where I would go after him. And I'd say he's easily like a top 15 catcher in a points league situation. Hard to play a guy in like a 12-team roto league where that you don't think he can get you a homer, or or at least a homer every other week or something, which I don't think you can really count on with Quero. You really do want guys that can hit 20 homers over a full season sample for a standard roto league, and Quero's not that, so keep that in mind. Let's look at some other. Let's go down to under 25% owned with at least 50 plate appearances. There's a lot of these guys. Dylan Dingler was someone a little bit interesting early on, took over for Jake Rogers. I'm not sure what the status is with Rogers. I think he was due back sometime soon, but Dingler's done a nice job. We did know he was a better hitter than Rogers, but I don't know about the defense. I don't know if the Tigers are going to want to, how often they're going to want to keep him in there, but done a nice job with the bat. 437 slug, 4 homers, 8.3% barrel rate. Ks are high, 28.5, and he doesn't walk either. So a lot of downside for him. I don't really think there's a ton of upside to go with it, but at least he's, I'd say he's above average hitting catcher. He needs a lot of playing time to even consider him for fantasy, though, and I don't think that sticks around, so there's probably no reason to really get too hyped about that. One more guy, let's say, as I scroll around, just kind of looking for other names. Joey Bart certainly deserves a look. Let's go to the comparison. Remember Joey Bart last year got cut from the Giants in the first couple weeks of the season. The Pirates picked him up, made him. He actually wasn't the Pirates' starting catcher at first, but Henry Davis thing wasn't working on. They eventually gave up on Henry Davis, and since then it's been Bart's job. Last year, 462 slugging, did a really nice job, 13 homers. This year, only 1 homer, but the other numbers are still really solid. Ks are in good shape, 24%. Barrel rate's actually higher than last year, 11.1%. Hitting the ball hard, 107.4 EV90 for Joey Bart. Zone contact, really nice, 85%. I mean, hitting a lot of balls and just hitting the ball hard. So more homers should be coming. Ground ball rate is at 46%. That's also an improvement from last year. Maybe the one thing that we've seen is just that he's been pitched around a lot more, 44% ball rate against him, 14.6% walk rate. I don't know if that's more patience on his behalf, although we could tell on the dashboard here. 39% swing rate, that is down 4 points from last year, but that doesn't tell us as much about his approach maybe as it is about the pitches he's seeing. It just seems like it makes sense that he's certainly, like, the Pirates lineup is Cruz, Reynolds, and then McCutcheon or somebody, and then Joey Bart, and after that it's just really, really pathetic. I mean, he's hitting 4th or 5th, and there's nobody threatening behind him. So after the season he had last year and the power he has, maybe it just kind of does make sense to not give him as much to hit. Maybe that's what we're seeing there, but on the Pirates, the situation is so bad, there's really not RBI opportunities, and things are really bad there. So I'm not saying you need him in a 12-team league or anything like that, because the homers aren't going to be elite. They'll be there, they'll come, but there's not a ton of RBI opportunity. But I do think Joey Bart is pretty clearly like a top 15 hitting catcher in the league. If you just look at, I don't know, let's go back to last year. let's do one more thing before we get out of here. Let's go back to last year, go to 300 plate appearances, and we'll just kind of see the OPS leaders at the position. Yvonne Herrera, number 1, with it barely qualifies here, 305 plate appearances, but he's on top at an 876 OPS. William Contreras, second, with 844 plate appearances, so kind of a lot more impressive there to do that over that big sample. But 796 OPS for William Contreras. Cal Raleigh at 784 with his 47 homers to lead the position by a mile. And then number 4 is Will Smith, and then number 5 is Joey Bart with a 783 OPS since he joined the Pirates, 267 batting average, 14 homers. That's about a pace for 17-ish homers, I would say, 30 plate appearances per home run. So actually, that's probably more like 20 if he gets the 600 plate appearances, but I guess catchers aren't really going to do that. They're not going to play that much, but yeah, Bart's a good hitter. I don't know, top 12 hitting catcher in the league. I don't know if that necessarily plays into top 12 for fantasy purposes, given the lack of team around him, and he's also not one of these guys that's getting DH reps when he's not catching. He's kind of exclusively a catcher. I should fact check that, I guess, but yeah, he's not someone the Pirates are playing every day. So yeah, just a sneaky little hitter. I don't know, if you need a catcher, give him a look. And yeah, that's it for the catchers. We'll look at some first baseman next time. You can do a lot more of this if you watch the video. You kind of learn some tricks along the way with the dashboard. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back later. Peace out.